Hi, welcome to the small shed. This Saturday I've got an industrial machine coming in the shed to see whether it's toast or not. See you in a minute. Now, I got dragged into the cafe over the road from Menning Sheds the other day by one of our shedders who had been approached by the cafe owner to know whether or not there was anybody at the shed that was mechanically minded as well as woodworking, and of course, being great friends that they are, they dragged me into it. So I've got a machine which you will be familiar with if you've been to any sort of hotel or anything, that stopped working a few years ago and has been sitting in a storeroom ever since, to see if we can get it working or not. Let's just go out to the car and bring it in. So that's the beast. I think we've all seen them before. There's a temperature control knob to control the heating element, and a speed control on a motor which drives a chain. I briefly plugged it in at the shed, standing well away from it, because I haven't checked anything out on it at all, but I could tell that the heating element was working and the speed control, and I could hear the motor running, so it sounds fairly simple, as if it's a mechanical issue. Yeah. Well, if nothing else, it could certainly do with the fan cleaning. Maybe going up there. And there's a fan on the bottom, and the motor. Looks like all the drive is on the side. So we'll go in at the side and have a look as well. I'm still tempted to plug it in, but until I've checked out what's going on. We have a chain drive, which is disappointing because I was hoping that would just be broken, but it's not. So I think it's time to be brave or foolish and just plug this in. As I say, I was pretty sure that there was heat coming out of the element and that I could hear the motor running, but it may have been the fan that was running, thinking about it, rather than the motor. Okay, so there's nothing seriously difficult in there. Three lots of wires coming in. It's earthed. It's all heat resistant cabling, and although it's pretty yucky, it looks in good condition. Okay, I think I'll switch it off before I go near it. Plug it in, and I can use the control there to turn it on. Okay, so there's some signs of noise. That's what I could hear before. So it's that fan that's working, that one isn't. Now it may just be, I don't know. Unplug it again. Move it. The motor is not working. There's a gearbox there, some sort. So unfortunately we've established that the gearbox isn't or the motor or gearbox are at fault, and I suspect it's the motor. So I'm just going to try and get the pulley off, get the chain drive off. As I say, I was really hoping, because I could hear a motor running, that it was purely and simply an issue with the drive mechanism here. This chain would have gone or something, but it's not. So I've got to try and get this off its spindle. That's it. Put that away. And then we can get at the mounting screws to drop the motor off altogether. A really small spanner on it around the back. See if we can loosen it. Yeah. Really weird design, that, to have it so that it's behind. You'd have thought there was no reason at all why they couldn't make the shaft longer. That's gone. There we go. Right. Next stop, motor mounts or gearbox mounts. Right, that's got the gearbox and motor out. And to be fair, there's not normally much goes wrong with these motors, because there's only a winding and you know, creates a magnetic field and they run. They're normally pretty substantial. There's a weird bit loose here, and I'm not sure whether it's a bearing cover just there for the actual, I think it's just a cover for a bearing where it goes into the gearbox. But that shouldn't stop anything else happening. It's a bit stiff, but it's not. This is the sort of thing you get in, you know, pumps and things like that. They just normally run forever. So, the next thing will be to check for continuity, I suppose. So, having done the quick check on anything that's obvious, like broken chains or anything mechanical, not got anywhere, it's time to get perhaps a bit more methodical about it. Now, I know that power is coming in for two reasons. Firstly, that fan works and works through that switch, and I can also feel heat from the heating elements, so I know that power is going in, and I know it's going to that switch because that switch controls that fan as well as the motor. So I think the point is now to establish whether or not we've got continuity, to make sure that there isn't a fault on the switch, which I think is perhaps the least likely of anything, but it's a possibility. We'll just check we've got earth, which we have, that's fine. So if I check to the switch on the input side, which is over there, so that's the neutral. So that one is therefore live, is it? Yep, no. So it's going in and coming out of the switch, so all I need to do is find out which the wires to the motor are connected to. Make sure they're the ones that are working as well. Right, I've had a couple of minutes probing. I've now found the two terminals that the motor goes to. I've established that there is contact between the plug and those two terminals, except when it's switched off, so I know that the wiring's right all the way down to the motor and that the motor is getting power. So really it's down to that. It's got to be the motor. I know the gearbox works because I've turned the motor, and after turning it several hundred times it has slightly moved the spindle, so I know that that's working. Now the only thing is that these things can jam up with muck, but I don't think so. It doesn't seem to be that bad. So I'm just going to whip the end off the motor and see if I can get anywhere with that. Give it a good clean, and if not, it looks like it may be that the motor is toast. So I'm just going to whip the fan off the end. Usually just a bearing on the end plate that will lift the whole of the central bit out. As I say, these things are fairly resilient. They're the sort of motors you get in clocks and things like that. Essentially you've just got a barrel running inside, which looks to be, I've put some WD in it and it looks to be in reasonable condition. Certainly much freer than it was now, but I don't think that's going to be the answer. But we'll go back to the previous way of dealing with it. We'll turn it off, plug it in, stand well back, turn it on. Oh! Now then, oh my lord. We'll put the fan on just so that you can see it, because I could see it. Right, I'm very happy with that. So it was just filth and clagging amongst that motor that was stopping it running. Next step I think is to clean up around where the motor goes in, get all the rubbish off it. I'll come back to the fan in a minute, but I think the next thing I want to do is put it back together relatively clean around it so that we can get the chain working and make sure it runs. That plate is held by the little serrations all around the edge, but I'm just going to put a tiny spot of super glue round a couple of those places just to stop it falling out, and a quick dab of accelerator, and hopefully that won't go anywhere for a bit. Right, let's tighten that up. Time to give it another try. Turn it off, plug it in, switch it on, turn it on. And all the vibration. That's pretty damn good to me. Right, that's got it all put back together. just going to put the sides back on and then carry on with this cleaning for a bit, get it looking a little bit more worthy of going in a food preparation place, and then we'll give it a test. Okay, so the machine's now working. I suppose there's only one thing left to do, and that's try it out. Okay. Does seem to be a bit of a problem with it. See if we can rectify that. Great, so that's got the toaster mended, so we might get some free breakfast down at the shed. Still not quite sure how it's doing that, but we'll have to see if we can just tweak it a bit. Hope the video is of interest. Look forward to seeing you next week. We'll try and do something different. I'll see you then. Bye!